Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at altcoins and how they're getting absolutely destroyed by Bitcoin time and time again. Bitcoin continues to dominate the crypto space and has seen the best gains in this entire cycle. Altcoins are now down roughly 60% against BTC, and of course that could extend a lot more with several altcoins hitting 80 or 90% down. Now there are some diamonds in the rough which are up against BTC, and we'll have a look at a couple of those today as well. But I wanted to dedicate the first part of this video to why Bitcoin is dominating the space and what you can do about it so that you're not getting destroyed, not getting wrecked and wasting your time in this cycle like many before us have done in previous cycles. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Now, before you think I'm an absolute Bitcoin maxi, no, we do everything on the channel. Bitcoin, the stock market, real estate cycle, and of course, cryptocurrency as well. And we do a lot of trading with cryptocurrencies. As you can see from our members results here, you can get access to the free Discord by subscribing to the free report. There is also a sale on TIA Premium this week, so stay tuned for that. Okay, let's get straight into the data and have a look at what is going on. When can we expect some sort of turnaround here before I get into the macro environment as well? Of course, there is a lot of money out there in the traditional markets. So just looking at previous alt seasons, just very, very high level here, just to keep it nice and simple in case this is the first time you're seeing the channel. Just looking at the alt seasons from previous market cycles. Now in 2017, there were several alt seasons and it was a much, much earlier type of market. There was a lot of mystery around how things worked and we saw lots of coins pump, and they pumped very, very quickly and did thousands of %. We move on to the next cycle and that reduced. We didn't see as many percentage gains as what we saw in the first cycle. Yes, there were coins that did thousands of %, but it got more tricky. It got more difficult than the previous cycle. Fast forward to this cycle, and we've barely seen that at all when you compare to the previous cycle. So we're comparing to 2021, comparing to 2017, and it might feel like it's never going to happen, or I dare say it, this time is different. Now, in terms of things being different, it's pretty hard to say that it's different when you only have two significant cycles to compare with. And we did have a 2013 cycle, but there was basically a handful of altcoins at the time, and most of them were basically just a rip-off of BTC, and they all called themselves something coin. So everything had to be related to coin at the time. And of course, we got into the 2017 cycle, more altcoins came about. XRP was a big one back then. We had Dogecoin, and Ethereum basically is where it started. And then things went south after that cycle. So from that peak to the bottom, we saw about a 78%. Fast forward it all the way to the absolute low. Now this is the total 3, so your crypto market cap, including stable coins in this case, versus BTC. They run for a few months and then die off for about 3 years. Just looking at the top to the bottom, that's 36 months. So basically 3 years. Now let's have a look at today. So from the current peak, and that peak is November 22. So essentially the cycle low for BTC, and for altcoins, the cycle low was roughly around December 2022. So a bit of a different starting point compared to what happened in the previous cycle. You can see the top here was May 21, and then also another top around September and January. So right in between, we had the Bitcoin top there in November. But just using the chart itself, looking at that, the top for this total 3 versus BTC, we're down now 30 months. So you recall from this previous move, we had the top to the bottom, that was about 36 months. So if we fast forward it to 36 months, that takes you out to November 2025, at a time when I guess most think or are expecting a Bitcoin all-time high, cycle top, cycle ending top, basically the peak of the market, to have occurred, or somewhere around that peak. So somewhere between, say, August, September, maybe if it extends out to January or February 2026. So you could slice it somewhere right through the middle. That would give you the 36 months right down, which would be similar to previous cycle. But there was also a low at this point, and then you had some sort of alt season here in 2020. Now this alt season, I remember it vividly. This one played out as the DeFi summer. July, August, Northern Hemisphere, US, European summer. That was what happened through this period right here. And then all the profits got taken. And then we had another couple of months up. Basically 1, 2, 3, 4 months. Things went a little bit sour. And then everyone tried to jump on the bandwagon again. And it was just a lot less opportunities through that period compared to this area here. You had everything just absolutely skyrocketing. So we haven't got to that level yet, and you can see the low point here is at around 5 million. So just 5 million on this chart here. Okay, again, we're just using total 3 versus BTC, and you can see it hit the low point and then bounced. We hit the low point September 19, bounced. We hit the low point again December, January 2020, 2021, big bounce, and we're still about 39% away from that level, which sounds pretty crazy considering where some of the altcoins already sit. Would that mean that every single altcoin has to go down 40% for a round number? Of course not, but just looking at, well, history, and yes, there is limited data here, but multiple support levels. So far, 3 levels at that price point. Call it 4 if you want to come back to this at July. Essentially, that could be on the cards that we have to come back down at least to test some of these levels. Now, we'll watch for any sort of turnaround that actually holds some support in case this level is brought up. Maybe it comes up to 7 million to these previous tops. Maybe it's here. We just don't know yet. We've seen 2 bounces so far. But what leads me to think that we might at least test and go a touch lower at least is that we are, well, at least the market is breaking through this support that has been put in November 2024, which was one of the first all-time highs for Bitcoin in this cycle. And then again, February 2025, that was another low there. Of course, Bitcoin topped in January there, 2025, and then we had a dump there for basically everything. So it's coming back to test the support, and you guys would know by now, support potentially becomes resistance. 5 days to go. This will be the end of May. If we see a close anywhere at this level where it currently sits, this would be the lowest monthly closing price going all the way back to February 2021, which would put it at a 51-month low, and that is just over 4 years. Now, in the case of altcoins, there are several there that had shown some sort of strength, but have continued to bleed after getting rejected at 50% levels. I'll come to that later in the video, but just to continue on with some of the macro outlooks here, in particular the USDT dominance. So essentially, you could look at this like the money supply in the crypto space. And again, it's on our all-time support line. It has not broken down, but to add another layer of analysis to this, which we haven't looked at recently, we're looking at the total 3. Again, this is altcoins, including stables, but you'll get the idea when it comes to the line itself. So the thing I'm looking at here is altcoins moving up in the orange line. That's for the fast move. So we typically assess this, or we call these sort of areas the alt season. Everyone wants this alt season. Everyone's waiting for this alt season. And there was an alt season, but they're so short-lived because, at least in my opinion, I think everyone is trying to wait on this, and everyone is trying to get rich quick. So as corny as this is, to quote myself, stop trying to get rich quick from shitcoins and hyped up stocks and play the long game. Your future self will thank you. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but hopefully you're getting the idea that yes, some people will get rich, but the majority of people do not get rich from trying to play the altcoin market. It is so fast, and by the time it's happened and everyone's sort of thinking, when is it going to happen? It's probably already happened. And if I have to try and prove that again, just look at the orange line, and it's usually at these periods. This is when everyone's saying, when is altcoin season going to happen? This altcoin's going to pump even more so. This altcoin's going to do X amount. It's a bit of a sad case of affairs. And that's just looking at the market sentiment reflecting on the comments that I see on YouTube and also on X. So yes, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. You can definitely get on board and try to make money from that. But if you don't have a plan, you don't know when you're going to get in, particularly above, say, support levels, you don't have alerts set up, you don't have trading management on how you're going to exit the market on the way up, then it's probably best to play the long game, find something that is in a strong position, as we'll cover in just a sec. Of course, Bitcoin is one of those, and just make life so much flippin' easier for yourself. Why make stuff hard when you've already got things going on in life, maybe your family, work, other commitments, relationships? To do this, there's no guarantees that you're going to get paid off. Now, if you do have a plan set up, great. If you don't, TI Premium is on sale this week. Link in the top of the video description. That is going to help you get set up for short term and the long term. And if you just want to check out results from some of the members here, that you can also get on the email there as well. Okay, so the thing the market is looking for here, you want this orange line to pump, you want this orange line to go up. USDT dominance has to have a significant breakdown. We can see significant breaks. So basically the market losing a lot of ground in these bars that are not overlapping. Here, overlapping, altcoins, pause. Here, overlapping, altcoins, the market, essentially everything else, pausing. Here, the bar is not overlapping. That essentially means that there is a lot of weakness in USDT, or if you want to look at it from a positive for the altcoin space point of view, there's a lot of strength in altcoins. You can see it just running up very, very quickly. But once you start to see overlapping, as is the case right now, then, well, you just don't see the movement in altcoins. Then the next thing to layer on that, going back to the altcoin chart, have a look at total 3, is if we see resistance. So we've got resistance here at 960 at the top. So we've also got resistance at the 50% level, $909 billion. You've got 1 close, 2 close, 3 weekly closes underneath the 50% of the down range, which isn't a great area to be in. But then we get more granular, low to high, provided it holds up above 810, 800, up to around that 840 billion. This zone here that I'm circling on the chart, that could lead it to at least consolidate, hold some strength to test that 50% again and hopefully break through the tops for your altcoin season. So that's the main thing that you're looking out for next for any sort of significant move in altcoins. And this particular setup, if we see these pullbacks, throw on your Gann swing indicator here, and you start to see breakouts of the swings going higher, continue with the green uptrend here, then you could expect some of the altcoins to start moving. But while there's resistance, of course, it's just not going to happen. So don't get too stressed out with the market. Of course, we also need to see the USDT dominance breakdown like we've done in basically every single time in the past. One here, you can see the dominance breakdown. You can see altcoins pump, altcoins pumping again, dominance breaking down, dominance finding support here, and then basically the altcoin market didn't go anywhere. You can see the altcoin market getting absolutely slaughtered. Meanwhile, the dominance is going up, rinse and repeat, so on and so forth. And the major big thing here, why I don't think it's heading down anytime soon, well, let's remove the word soon, but it's not heading down at the moment, is because it's at this all-time support line, which has basically held up the market, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies going all the way back to 2017. So unless this is going to get a breakdown, we get a nice clean bar down, and in which case you will have your altcoin chart open, you'll be watching this, you'll have your alerts set, you'll have maybe your positions ready to go for any sort of breakout. That's part of your trading plan. So hopefully you've got a trading plan. That would be where we would look for quick moves. You can see it here. Here are your tops. You can see this week it broke the highs. So it's as simple, well, trading is difficult, but you could make it as simple as you need to be, as it needs to be for you. Look for areas that the market is going to break these key levels. And typically when this happens, using at least the Gann Swing Pro, you start to get a faster move on. So you can see the break of those highs and a nice big move on. You can see break of these highs, nice fast move. Break of the highs, a move. Break of these highs, faster move. So Bitcoin dominance is leading the show at the moment. Bitcoin's sitting at $109,000. This is the reference range that we've been following on the channel. It's the 3-day swing. So here are our trends. Trends are all still up, although the 1 day, so the shorter term stuff now, guys, looks like it's slowing a little here, potentially putting in a bit of a lower swing top. But the reference range that we're looking at, low to this high, and this was the 3-day swing. So check this line right here. That held the 50% level at 105. The market paused for a while. Again, at the 75% level, that's held the market again. So that's around 111. Of course, the top came in at 112, but then quickly reversed under, and potentially this could be another retest underneath that level at $110,500. In which case, if we are to see a correction here, looking back towards around 105 and then back to about the low to mid 90,000s, that would keep it in a position of strength. Underneath those levels, then I'm looking for more weakness here in BTC, and then that could lead to, well, a little bit of, well, more downside for altcoins. I think underneath this week level, you're going to see not nice things happen across the board, but if it remains at above the 100, potentially even above sort of the mid 90s, then you might see some of that money flow out into altcoins, at least for some sort of short-term pump. But we're not, well, at least I'm not focused on those short terms. I want to see some longer term moves here. Consolidation here would be a good sign for BTC to attempt the 8-year breakout point. So you can see the 2017s, 2021 tops, and 2024, 2025 tops. It hasn't broken out of this level yet. And I think that's what is potentially lining up here for the USDT dominance. That's why this thing keeps holding the line. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is also underneath that level, which is now coming in about 113, 114,000. So if it can consolidate in a strong position, then that sets it up to at least attempt the breakout of this 7-year line. So let's just keep a watch on that. Now, the other thing on this chart is the speed angle that we were watching the other day. I'm going back to the August through to the December top, just watching how fast the market is moving up. And at the moment, BTC is definitely moving up a lot faster than what it did into that December top. It took a while to get going and then shot up, and then basically was grinding its way from about 92 up to about $108,000. So there was really one big move out of that entire move. Right now, we've got a big fast move for 45 days, holding out here. Should it continue to go sideways, it'll lead back into that same speed line here that you can see. And this is a 70% of this time frame. So what does that mean? Low to the high. You can see this took about 134 days. So this time frame is 70% of that time frame. The reason I was using 70% is because this time frame against this time frame here, this one here is 70% of that one. So we're seeing a shortening in the time that it takes for Bitcoin to get to that next high. And that time frame comes in somewhere around the 10th of July. You might recall on the 9th of July, you've got Trump and the EU, they're putting their tariff on pause until that time. There's usually something that comes up around those timings, but we had these timings well before we knew anything about Trump and EU. That's just how these cycles continue to work. So that's the first level that I'm watching for as we lead into that time zone. So if Bitcoin goes sideways, maybe it does for a week or two, test the highs, any which way, if that level is tested on the underside of the speed line here, if it tests from underneath, that is weak. If it tests from on top, that is stronger. So hopefully I made that nice and clear. We'll keep following up with that as we assess the strength and the weakness of this cycle, along with the day counts. I'll come back to this in another video as this one's going on a little bit longer, but you can check out Michael's channel. I'll leave a link to that in the video description, so go and have a look at that. There he is right there, my handsome brother. He has gone into great detail looking at the end of the cycle, basically looking at tops coming in around Q3, just based on some simple timeframes here. And we'll also follow up with this on the channel as well. Now, the other thing I posted this morning here on X, if you're not following, link is in the video description, only a few hours ago, 1,300 votes. I want to see what you guys are thinking. Let's keep things simple. Will Bitcoin cycle top be above or below 200,000 this cycle? At the moment, you've got about 29% thinking it's above and 71% thinking it'll be under. Now, that could just be because, well, you guys that are following, maybe you're a little bit more level-headed, maybe a bit more sensible than the bulltards that have been talking about $1 million Bitcoins for the last couple of years and talking about it getting there at 2030, like your Kathy Woods of ARK Invest. I think that is highly unlikely, not impossible, but highly unlikely. I wouldn't care if it got there because, of course, I'm holding Bitcoin, but I think just to be a little bit more conservative, that's where I'm looking, somewhere under this 200,000 for this cycle. So moving on to the crypto data, we also see greed. You can see we're still holding out, looking for a roughly 7 to 14 day style correction. Daily exchange volume, high highs, high lows, also a good sign. Just dropping off a little in the 24 hours, but at least we're seeing more of that sticking volume when it comes to traders in crypto and altcoins, and the liquidations have also dropped off in the last 24 hours, so nothing really to look at there. But another really, and I say really, interesting point is from Jason Shapiro, Crowded Market Report, and this is the commitment of traders. It has been a very helpful chart to look at when it comes to what the commercial players are doing in the futures markets and the large speculators. So don't worry about the small speculators at the moment. They're basically always long. That's us, isn't it? But the large speculators have been going short Bitcoin. This is the blue area here, and the commercials, maybe call this the smart money, and this is the dumb money. The commercials have been going long. You can see the dates down here from April into May. They've been going long, and these guys have been shorting in large numbers, not just short-term stuff. Short-term is a little different here. This is basically getting your entire positions out. They've basically been wrong, I think, the entire bull market. Every time Bitcoin's going up, here you go, October, November, December, that's in 2023 as it's breaking out. Then January, it was breaking into that high of around $49,000. The longs, well, the large speculators were short and getting absolutely annihilated. Meanwhile, the commercials were going long. So for whatever reason, large speculators are generally on the wrong side of the market. And again, here they are on the wrong side of the market. So I take that as a nice signal to suggest that sentiment is still on our side here. Now, looking at other sentiment or looking at the charts now for the traditional markets, we've got the Dow Jones also grinding out here. The S&P 500 also playing along with our 5-year fractal. This is what the red line is in the background. So we posted about this. If you've been following, let me know. Hit the like and subscribe, and let me know, comment down below. Basically, it's been tracking along similar to the COVID dump and then rebound from that point. Yes, a few days down, and now we've just got the grind leading into June. Same sort of thing happening with the NASDAQ as well. And as for the US dollar, it continues the slide lower, 98.7. This is all in line with our 18-year cycle, whereby the US dollar sees a lot of weakness in the second half of the real estate cycle, which is what we are currently in now. We're also continuing, as I said, to see that strength in BTC. So US dollar also trending down. That's day after day at the moment, getting rejected there at 101. That's what we want to see. The 10-year yields have also had a day down. This was after everyone was commenting on it and talking about it at this top. Same thing for the 30-year yields. Now there they were, everyone talking about it at the top, and now we see another day down. And then the bonds have climbed out of the low because these are basically inverse at this point. As for altcoins, they are still struggling against their Bitcoin values, and that of course can be seen from our total charts that we're looking at, and total versus BTC that continue to trend down. Just taking a look at Solana, rejected at the 50% level yet again, and just sliding off here. It still hasn't broken down from the lows at 0.0015. That's basically where I'm looking, line in the sand there. And then of course this low back here at 0.0013 as a round number. Same thing for XRP. This has continued the slide down. It was sitting, well, it is still sitting above the 50%. Now this is of the range of that big pump up when it did its 500% move in a matter of weeks, and basically has not gone anywhere since that point. It's still sliding against BTC value and can do so, still remain in a stronger position, somewhere down to about 1,500 sats, maybe even a touch lower here, 12-ish hundred. But you definitely want to start seeing this thing at least hold some ground and then work its way higher. Otherwise, it is getting rejected I don't want to say it, but it's getting rejected again where it has done in 2023, 2022, 2021, and there's 2019 as well. So somewhere around that 3,300 Satoshi level. So that's XRP against BTC. SUI BTC, ideally, we don't see it go too much lower than about 2,800 Satoshis, and then that final low there, which is about 2,300 Satoshis. Just this week alone doesn't fill me with too much signs of strength because there was a lot of volume there on the way down, but it did hold the 50%. So basically, altcoins are in a little bit of a tricky space here unless they find some support, some of the stronger stuff, and start to base out here. And if Bitcoin continues higher over the coming weeks, they also start to grind higher, even just slowly, in a little more than BTC. That's going to be a stronger position. Otherwise, they're in trouble to lose ground against BTC, in which case you're better off finding something nice and simple to trade, probably a little less volatility to keep your life, as I said, nice and simple. All right, as I'm filming this, we're on the way down, 107,000, potentially a little lower high here forming. This breaks down here at 106. This little box up here is going to turn red, and that's going to give you a short-term downtrend. Okay, we'll follow up with this in tomorrow's video. Like and subscribe. Links in the video description, as you guys know. I'll see you real soon. Have a fantastic day, and peace out.